Okay. Anyway, what does this sentence say? With the new contract implementation, I was converted to reserve status on call 24 hours per day, 18 days per month to work flights when United needs me.
That's what on call is.
Yeah, I mean, um, I'm a little bit tainted here because I have a lot of pilot buddies, and when they're on reserve, I know that they almost never get called. And I don't know, I do think that the reader skeptically, naturally, sounds like you were, Ben. You're like, oh, yeah, well, you're on call, but you're on
Mm-hmm.
call. Did she need to say 24 hours per day? By the way, 18 days per month means that she has 12 or 13 days per month where she's definitely not on call, which would be
Yeah.
completely off.
Mm-hmm.
How many days a week do people in law firms work? How many days per week do
7.
lawyers work?
It's not uncommon to work 7 days. I think I've told you on the show before, right? Like my first year working as a legal writing consultant, having decided not to go to a law firm, and then having my friend call me? No, text me? I can't remember. On Christmas Day and was like, oh, I can't do XYZ. I'm at the office. And I was like, that sucks. See ya. I'm opening presents.
I am going to give an opinion right now, which might break DH's heart. But I mean it as a positive thing. I think flight attendants have it really, really good. I'm not saying it's easy work by any means, but flight attendants have pretty flexible schedules for the most part. They have pretty interesting work, at least more interesting than most lawyers, I think. They are paid pretty damn well. They have amazing benefits, including the just unreal travel benefits that they have. And I want DH to seriously consider whether she should actually be pursuing law school. I like, if she thinks being on call 24 hours a day, 18 days a month is, taxing enough that it merits mentioning in her law school personal statement, I think she has no idea what the life of a lawyer is like.
Yeah.
Wild speculation, and DH could have all sorts of good reasons, and I'm not trying to crush your dreams. I'm just telling you, I think you have it pretty damn good, and I am skeptical that you're going to end up with something better via law school. This might be a grass is always greener type of a situation. Anyway, she's on call, on reserve. As a union volunteer, I am on call outside of my normal reserve days to answer questions and concerns from fellow flight attendants. I read and monitor the assignment preferencing reports and crew scheduling assignments to reserves. I also file grievances, communicate with scheduling managers, and explain contract legalities. Be careful. The two people who have been to law school here, me and Ben, we don't feel like we are capable of explaining contract legalities to anyone. I have been to law school. I got A's, I think, in contracts. I don't know shit. So it is grating when someone who has not been to law school talks about explaining the legalities of anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could explain what you think, whatever. You did some training and you can tell people what the union says your rights are. That's fine. But you got to stay away from this I'm already a lawyer kind of talk.
Yeah.
It's too common. I'm not talking about you in particular, DH. It's just that it's so common that I guarantee it's grating for someone who reads thousands of these. Okay, I like I think you agree, Ben. I like that
Hmm.
she's saying what she does. She's using I do this, I do that a
Yeah.
lot.
Yep.
These things are legal adjacent, which is good. Mm, the three parties: flight attendants, management, and schedulers. Okay. Shortly after joining the reserve committee, I noticed the union lacked any data related to how many reserve flight attendants are currently assigned properly according to contract legalities. There's that super obnoxious term again. Don't say that, please. This data could be vital not only in resolving in the moment contract violations, but also in future contract improvements. There's a weird tense shift or tense problem there,
Yeah.
because I'm assuming that she is going to solve this problem.
She's like talking in the past as if there's a problem that's
Well, she's
not yet
talking about it as if
solved.
it's still a problem, right? The data
Yeah.
could be vital. No, you should have said this data would or maybe could have been or something like that. But, or you could
Yeah.
have just said, we needed this data in order to do this. So therefore I did this. My biggest issue here is that she needs to get to the I did this part.
Yep. Also, this whole like in the moment contract violations, in future contract improvements, I feel like she's trying really hard to drop legal terms to associate herself with the law.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because I think if she would have told me about stuff that she probably considers like low level stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but her resolving disputes with problem passengers in the air, or her getting the passengers on board as quickly as possible while also smiling and joking and laughing and making everybody happy and comfortable. Those
And
types of
whatever
things.
checks, they have a pre-flight checklist, right?
Oh,
Whatever else they have to do at the same time.
all that shit is, I think flight attendants are badasses. That's one thing I learned a lot from my days flying back and forth between LA and San Francisco when I in the before COVID times when I used to do that. I had super great respect for flight attendants. I think that they're awesome, and I think she could be telling me this whole thing of her volunteering with her union and then trying to drop in legal terms and stuff is so much less impressive than the actual work she did as a flight attendant to me. I created a data collection project comprised of two parts. The first was a database of calls received, which identifies, there's a verb tense problem again. The first was, and then she goes to identifies. So it goes past tense and then present tense.
Mm-hmm.
Identifies trends in the scheduling process. I include this information in monthly meetings with company representatives and dispute resolutions.
Mm-hmm.
What? You're meeting with company representatives and also meeting with dispute resolutions?
Doesn't
Who?
make sense.
No. The second was a data collection project of reserve assignments / releases to use in monthly meetings and long-term contract negotiations. What is she doing, Ben?
I don't know, but again, it's like too much buildup too. Like I created a data collection project. What? Like you're trying to make it a big thing. I collected data. I what kind of data did you collect? I tracked which calls we received for scheduling and when or something. I don't know. But the point is when you oversell, you end up overselling and it just looks bad. It makes what you actually did look not as impressive.
she keeps saying contract. I mean, she said contract half a dozen times in the last 4 sentences. She also said monthly meetings in 2 consecutive sentences, which monthly meetings, why? So what?
Yeah.
Why do I care what the frequency is of these meetings?
No, in fact, the less frequent they are, the less important they may be.
I don't understand why I think 2 things. Well, one thing, I think she didn't read this out loud. I feel like that monthly meetings would be super grating if you read that out loud and heard it 2 sentences in a row.
Mm-hmm.
It's there we go again with the contracts, and there we go again with the monthly meetings. It's like she's repeating herself a lot. And I think if she had read this out loud, she wouldn't, I think she would have had to cut some of those. Okay, originally I manually recorded this second part in a spreadsheet. I found myself taking hours every evening to log scheduling data at 4 p.m. and then 7 p.m. for each one of 10 domestic bases. You know, like you talking about your own inefficiency, like you created a nightmare problem for your, like a nightmare project for yourself, for your volunteer job. On the one hand, I mean, I get it. Like you're showing, hey, I worked my ass off on this. But on the other hand, it's like, really? Hours every evening? I mean, do we even believe that that's true? Literally
It's not
hours every
impressive.
evening is what it says.
It's not, yeah, it's not the hours that you put in that's impressive. It's the work you did. So just say we don't need to know this. Just say you logged the scheduling data. I don't need to know that you did it at 4 and then at 7. Raises the question too, like why those 2 times? I don't know.
You could have just said it was too much data collection for one volunteer to handle. And then her next sentence is, so I took the data collection idea to the Internal Reserve Training in Chicago, where it was met, and by the way, I don't care where it was, where it was met with enthusiasm and has since been adopted by other bases. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. I thought you were going to say, I took it to these badasses and they made it into a automated process.
Yeah.
Instead, it sounds like your horrible, inefficient process has now been adopted by other bases. But I think what
Which
you
is
mean to say is now you're not doing it for all of the bases. They are doing it individually for themselves. I think that's what she means, but that's not
well, this could
super
be totally
impressive.
reframed, right? Like not focus on any of this, the time, the difficulty. Just say, I started logging this data, realized its importance, and invited other bases to do so as well. Together, what did you do with this information?
All right,
Like
what are the
that shows
results of this?
leadership. Yeah.
But check it out. She doesn't even, she
Oh,
just
we have
says,
another with.
yeah, with my program spreading across the country, you should say, as my program spread across the country, I sought to find effective ways to train the new volunteers. I sought to find effective ways. Why don't you just talk about what you did?
I found.
Yeah, I found effective ways. I took it upon myself to create training videos for new volunteers to help. I took it upon myself.
This is more like overselling. Like
Yeah.
decided to take the leadership role. No, just say I created training videos. Whoa.
I
Okay.
appointed
Cool.
myself chairman of a search committee to find a new way to train the new volunteers. As chairman of the committee, I appointed myself to create training video. Like, plain spoken is okay here. I created training videos for new volunteers to help with the data collection.
Awesome.
It's a little vague, but anyway, you created
It's
training
still you
videos.
doing something,
Yeah.
which is good. Yeah, and solving a problem.
All the help from my colleagues significantly lightened my workload.
Don't need that.
Yeah, we get it. We
Just
can infer that that's what's going to happen here as you You decided to train other people to do this shit. That's great. That's a very managerial thing, by the way. You know?
Well, also, this just shines light back on the fact that it was inefficient in the first place. Just say I started logging this data to realizing its value. I asked others to start doing it, and they did. And then I
Yeah.
helped them. And
I
this is how I helped them.
created a process and I got other people to volunteer to do the process. That's
That's
awesome.
good. Yeah.
That's big time. That's manager shit.
Yeah.
All this, like, she keeps going back to harping on how high her workload was. That doesn't impress anybody. You know, that we see this a lot. It's very common in law firm culture where people love to talk about their 14-hour days and stuff. That doesn't impress anybody. Like,
No, it's like, why couldn't you get it done faster?
right. Yeah. Why didn't you delegate? Why didn't you have
Mhm.
some self-respect and draw a border around, you know, why didn't you block off time for your family or whatever?
Yep.
It's just
Mhm.
not it's not the executive function, which is what she's trying to get to here, but she keeps making it look small time by talking about how many hours she was working. After reworking my data collection methods further, I'm hearing too much data now, like too much with the data collection. Anyway,
Okay.
I found computer programs that make the process much more streamlined. Too vague. Overselling, by the way, with I found computer programs. It's like, oh, what did you learned how to import data into Excel? You know,
Also, much more streamlined. Just say, I streamlined the data collection process by using programs.
yeah, the program. I mean, what program? I don't believe you. It's too much. I don't, it's like you get to the point now where I'm real skeptical. I'm just like, oh, really? Multiple computer programs, but now it's program singular. So which one is it? The program automatically imports in the data. You don't need to say imports in the data. It just imports the data to be stored in the central spreadsheets. I think she needs to cut all this. It actually makes, this is having the exact opposite of the intended effect. Because if you're storing data in spreadsheets, savvy people are going to be like, why aren't you doing this in Access? Or why aren't you doing this in SQL? Why aren't you doing
Why is
this
this in a database? Yeah.
Right. Why is this not a database? Why are you doing this in Microsoft Excel?
Are you in Google Sheets?
Right. By computer programs, do you mean Safari and Google Drive? Okay. So I set my sights on a new project. Oh, victory. It's automatically importing. It's stored in the central spreadsheets. She's declaring victory. She's looking for a new project. I think she needed to get to this new project a paragraph and a half ago. I started to contribute to the monthly reserve reports, which are sent to the Master Executive Council. Who?
What?
Why do I care that they're monthly? I don't know who the Master Executive Council is.
It sounds like overly grand. Master. Is there an executive council?
The first part of the data collection project information is included in the reports, but I also have the responsibility of recording the monthly schedule bids and award data. Boy, that monthly. Monthly appears 4 times in this statement. Month appears 8 times, including the times where it appears monthly. So she's got 4 month and 4 monthly. I think if you read it out loud, you would catch stuff like that. It's okay. It's more like she's just collecting data and making reports.
Yeah.
So what?
This is the new project?
Yeah, and it sounds very clerical. It just doesn't sound, it's not impressive. You know, we had one time, I think, Ben, where we told somebody on the show that if you created a new data management system for your law firm, that could be a good thing to talk about. And since then, we've gotten an awful lot of people wanting to talk about reports and data and stuff. I'm not saying that you can't. I'm just saying, well, what else you got? As man, a flight attendant should have. Also, all of this is volunteer. Why are you telling me so much about your volunteer stuff?
Yeah.
What about your actual job? When both data collection projects and the committee reports were running smoothly, I decided to also volunteer for the negotiations support committee. Through AFA training, I have learned the vital tactics that will be employed in upcoming contract negotiations. Ben's shaking his head. Ben's like, no, you haven't. You're not a lawyer. You're not a labor negotiator.
Yeah.
I will be the first point of contact between the contract negotiations team and my flying partners, and vice versa. What?
I don't want to hear about what you're going to do or going to be.
The and vice versa there is super grating. A point of contact is a point of contact in both directions. You don't need to tell me that it's from them to them and from them to them. We get it. It's a point of contact.
I'll take your message to them, but I'm not going back there with any messages from you. You understand me?
The data that my AFA colleagues and I have compiled will be used by our negotiation team and could improve the structure of our scheduling system in the future contract.
I don't want to hear about what it could do.
The involvement with my labor union has been my biggest inspiration to pursue law school.
Backfires. Uh-oh. That's your biggest inspiration? This is all you know? I'm worried you don't know what you're getting involved in.
Total whiff. The theme, total whiff. Start over. Absolutely tell me about your life as a flight attendant, but I don't care about any of this stuff. I think you got to start over, DH. I think you could write an awesome personal statement about the challenges you face and how you overcome those challenges in the aircraft on the day-to-day. I think that would be much more compelling than all of this volunteer data gathering and like pseudo lawyer shit.
So I'm not as opposed to this volunteer work, but it would have to be dramatically reworked and focused on what she's actually doing, and stop overselling, stop talking about the monthly meetings, stop talking about the data so much. Like, I still don't even understand the problem that she tried to solve.
No, I don't really either.
Like, if you know, she's like, hey, I'm part of this group and I realize that no one's keeping track of XYZ, and that's a big deal because of T. So I started tracking it, and then other people got on board. I showed them how to do it. I solved the problem. I'd be like, oh, cool. But I have no appreciation for what you've done because I still don't even understand the problem. And it's not like you should take a paragraph to say that. You say it in one sentence. You say, we couldn't do X. And it's like, oh, wow, I could see how that'd be a problem. But I really don't even understand.
I would like to offer to DH that if she would like to start over and rewrite this personal statement, I personally want to hear about her actual job. Ben maybe wants to hear a much better version of this volunteer stuff. But
I would love to hear another story. I'm not saying no to another story. I'm just saying it could work. I just don't know what's here. It's hard to tell what the substance is.
DH, I think you have the potential to write an amazing personal statement. You could teach me about the life of a flight attendant, and you could show yourself. You could show so many awesome aspects of your candidacy by showing me as you doing badass things, solving problems in the aircraft. And if you want to start over and rewrite the personal statement, I will personally put it on the show agenda and we will do this whole thing again. Once you get over your crying, get back up, dust yourself off, try again, rewrite it on that other different topic. And I would love to do it again on the show. But yeah, I'm over the volunteer stuff. I'm not saying you can't do it. I just am not very interested in it, but I am totally interested in the flight attendant theme. Focusing on you actually solving problems, you know, like the things that you have to do to ensure the successful operation of your aircraft. I would love to hear those stories.